Alright, so we have a short lesson this week. It's a little country ragtime blues composition. It's only about 30 seconds long, and there's only 3 chords in it, but there's a lot of educational information that we're going to break down over the course of 2 videos. So in this video, we're going to go through the first half of that. If you'd like to watch the second video, as well as download the tablature, and also access the on-screen tab viewer, you can get those things by going to activemelody.com, go to the weekly lessons page, and do a search for EP468. Alright, well, I had a hard time coming up with a title for the lesson this week. I always like to try and be as descriptive as I can when I do that, but there was like a hybrid of styles. You know, there's this country kind of strummy, alternate bass thing, and then there's the 2 chord, which is major. We're going to talk about that in a minute, which to me makes it sound more ragtime, or like a ragtime piano vibe. Then there's some bluesy licks thrown in. So is it blues? Is it country? Is it ragtime? It doesn't really matter. I'm only mentioning that because a lot of times we tend to generalize. We see something as labeled country or bluegrass or something, and we go, oh no, I don't like that style of music. But if you like the sound of music, if you like the sound of what you heard there, don't worry about the label so much. There's elements that you can borrow from all of those and incorporate into your playing. Even if you don't like the style in general, you can still take little pieces that you like. Okay, so this song is played in the key of C, and there's 3 chords. Let's talk about the 1 chord and the 5 chord first. This will be the little bit of theory that we'll get out of the way. It's not going to be deep, but anyway, the 1 chord is a C, the 5 chord is a G. That's pretty basic, right? Now there's one other chord in this, which is a D7. D7 is not a chord that would be in the chord family for the key of C. You could look at that as a borrowed chord. That's probably the easiest way to just sort of describe it. I think of that as kind of a dominant, or I'm sorry, of a major 2 chord. I see that on chord charts a lot. I'll see 2 with a capital M, so that would be a 2 major. But I guess technically what that would be a secondary dominant chord. Now that's a fancy term, and actually I'll put a link up to a lesson that I did on secondary dominant chords a while ago. For those of you that want to do a deep dive. But basically, here's the gist of it. When we have the 5 chord in the song, which is our G, you can play the 5 chord of that 5 chord. So D is the 5 chord of G. So think about if we were just doing a song in the key of G, what would be the 5 chord in the key of G? It would be a D chord, right? So that D7 chord is actually the 5 chord of your G chord, and the G chord is the 5 chord of the C, which is the key of the song. I know that seems weird, but it's this sort of little trick that you play on your ear. You're kind of doing a turnaround. You got the 5 of the 5, then you got the 5 itself, and then you got the 1. And it creates this nice little loop that you can just kind of keep going through, and that's why that's used. Okay, so that's the theory bit out of the way. Let's talk about this first little lick that goes... Right? Now you've heard that in a lot of songs. You can use this in other things once you learn how to do it. It's very simple. We're going to just do a bass walk up. Now it's important to do this with your ring finger and your middle finger. So you're going to start on the 3rd fret 6th string with your ring finger. Then you're going to play open 5th, and then 2 and 3. That's the 2nd fret, 3rd fret on the 5th string with your middle finger and your ring finger. Why do you use those fingers? You want your index finger free so that you can go right into that C chord. It's in position to do that. If I'd used other fingers and then tried to get to the C, you can see it gets awkward there. So after you do that, you strum the C chord. That's just a little build up to the C. Now you can take that one little piece of information and use that now anytime you're playing a C chord. It's just a bass walk up. So play that, and then we go. So it's the open 4th string, which is your D note, 1st fret, 2nd fret, and make sure you hit that with your middle finger. Now that note is in your C chord already, right? So you can think of it this way. When we did that first walk up, you walked up to this C note, which is a note in the chord, right? And then here, you're walking up to the E note, which is your 2nd fret, 4th string, and that's another note in the chord. So you can think of those as 2 little walk-ups to those notes. Now after that, I'm going to put my index finger down where it would be in the C chord, 2nd string, 1st fret, and then watch this. So that's a double stop. You're playing that 1st fret, 2nd string along with the open 3rd string, which is your G note. So you're just playing strings 2 and 3 out of your C chord. And then you do a hammer on to the 2nd fret 3rd string, and then back to the open 3rd string. But just make sure you're playing that 1st fret 2nd string along with it. So from the beginning we have. Now let's learn one other little lick here. So this next lick goes like this. It's just 4th string open. You do a hammer onto the 2nd fret with your middle finger, pull off, and then your ring finger comes down to where it would be in the C chord, which is that low C note there on the 3rd fret 5th string. So all together. So you can take any of these little pieces that you've learned now and apply them to other things going forward around a C chord. So for example, if you're playing a C chord and hanging out, look at some of these things. That's all things you've already learned. There's your walk up. Now here's the little hammer on pull off thing, trill. So play around with them is what I'm saying. Like, you can learn them in context of this song, but start thinking, well, how else can I use this stuff? So from the beginning we have. Now, all right, so the next thing we do is we walk it up to the D7 chord. And that's just walking up on this 5th string. We go from the 3rd fret to the 4th fret up to the 5th fret with that ring finger. Make sure you use the ring finger. Your other fingers will fall into place and play what would be like the C7 chord shape. Now that's a D7 chord, but if you think of taking your C chord in first position, you slide it up 2 frets, and then you put your pinky down on the 5th fret 3rd string. But only play those middle 4 strings, 5, 4, 3, and 2. That's a D7 chord. And so the thing that makes this really work rhythmically is kind of, I really got this from Chet Atkins. In fact, Chet would do it like this. Right? So I took that idea and just learned how to do it with a pick. So it's like. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to play the 5th string by itself, strum the chord, ring finger comes down and it goes to the 6th string on that 5th fret. So basically your ring finger is alternating like that, like a bass player. So you go like this, strum the chord, play that, and then do an upstroke on the 2nd string, strum the chord again, and then hit the upstroke on the 2nd string again. So it goes like this. Slowly we have. So just practice that. It's hard to do slow. Now what I love about that little rhythm is you can use it anywhere on the fretboard. There's no open strings. Every note is fretted. So if I wanted to play an E7 using that same technique, right? So anyway, just, take each of these little pieces as a, little mini lesson, I guess. Okay, so after the D7, we come up to this little G lick, or G7 lick. So it starts with a ring finger on the 3rd fret, 6th string. Classic bluegrass walk up here. We could play the open 5th string, 1st fret, 2nd fret. I can't remember if I slid into that or I picked the notes. I think I picked it. Like that. And then you play the open D string. Now watch this. I love this. It sounds harder than it is. It's actually pretty easy. What you're going to do is you're going to put your ring finger and your middle finger on the 3rd fret, strings 2 and 4. But you're going to slide into it. You're going to start by picking that 4th string, slide into it like that, slide into that 3rd fret, and then you're going to play 2, 3, 4, and then take your ring finger off, index finger down here on the 1st fret, 2nd string, which is your C note, and then take that off and play the open B note. So I love that lick. I have no idea where I got that. I've used that variations of that for years. I want to say it was probably something from Tony Rice, but I don't really know. It's a great little lick off of a G chord, and you're really hinting at a G7 by playing that note, which would be your flat 7. Now after that I went, and then that gets us back to the C. Now let's look at that lick. So it's actually very easy to play. It's just C major pentatonic scale. We're gonna slide in with our ring finger from the 4th fret to the 5th fret on the 2nd string, and then 5th fret 1st string, and then we're gonna go 3rd fret 1st string, and then we're gonna do 5, 3 on the 2nd string. Now that's a little box there. I want you to think about that box in relation to, remember that's a C major pentatonic scale, so we're thinking C chord. What do we play over that C chord? We have our C chord here, but we have our C chord here using the A shape out of the cage system. And if you look at when you play that, you're playing one finger on the 3rd fret, one finger on the 5th fret. So when you see those notes from that lick, you can kind of relate them back to that chord shape. So if you wanted to do the same lick over a D, right? You could do it like that. Let's go back to our C. We have, now when I played that 5th fret 2nd string, I slid it down to the 3rd fret like that. And then we go right back to where our C chord would be, you know, the first position C chord. We come down to that 1st fret 2nd string, 2nd fret 3rd string, and then back to the 1st fret. So think of all of that as a lick off of your C chord. There's a lot of mileage you can get out of this little area, because you can go and get into the bluesy thing by hitting on that note, which would be in your C7 chord, your dominant 7 chord, that flat 7. But anyway, that's just major pentatonic scale. You can think of that as major pentatonic scale pattern 5. Right? Pattern 1 would be up here. Alright, let's back it up and play it from the beginning. I'll play through it slowly, and then we'll see in part 2 where we'll go over the second half. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1.